Today at Let's Talk Marketplace, we talked about
how Germans behave on online marketplaces. We two native Germans invited our Dutch guest Dex van Hofwegen from Channel Engine to share his view on German market.
and we found out who the Lord Voldemort of marketplaces is.
Have fun listening.
Let's Talk Marketplace.
The Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lammer and Valerie Dichtel.
Hello, everyone. It's time to talk about marketplaces once again. And thanks for tuning in. My name is Ingrid, and with me is Valerie. And I think you're positively glowing this morning. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's still the aftermath of this event that you hosted last week, Valerie. Was it that?
It's so funny.
You are.
Yeah. It's the after event. It's the sun in my face, actually.
Yeah, that's always good with an Easter window.
Yes.
Still.
And still, I did a great first event in the season, I would say.
Yeah.
I did an exclusive event with Petter and my partner, and we had like a really tiny, small and nice exclusive Marketplace Universe Connect event where we had like different brands there, really small, round, like 12 people or something. Good Italian food. Dex also noticed our guest, the place already. And
some
and
live mozzarella tasting of what I read.
Yes, we learned how to make mozzarella, burrata, and ricotta. And I mean, that's the most important things we need to do in the marketplace business, of course. So, what else what are we talking about today?
Well, today I thought, as the two of us are often getting asked by our international community about the German market, which we always go like, but everyone knows about that. And then they say, no, we don't, because we're not German, duh.
Yeah.
So I thought we could focus a bit more on how the German consumer ticks, and especially on marketplaces, and what this means for people who want to sell to Germany and how to address their marketplace business.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And I think it's also good that we not just two Germans talking about the German market. We also invited someone from the Netherlands. Someone you already know.
That was my idea, actually, because I thought let's bring another perspective into this, and which we are very happy to welcome Dex van Hofwegen to our show again. Director of Sales and Customer Success is our partner, Channel Engine. And they recently published quite some interesting figures on the German market, on the consumer behavior on marketplaces here. And so I think that is a great match today. So welcome, Dex, to have you here.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, welcome to have you here, Dex, again. And I would say we do the usual intro because the last episode I think we did was in autumn last year. And so I would say, tell us a bit more about who are you?
Great. Yeah. So my name is Dex. It's short for Dexter. I'm the commercial director at Channel Engine, so I think that's clear. I've been with Channel Engine for almost 6 years now. And just for, to paint that picture a bit, when I started, we were 20 people. And currently, we were like 250. So a lot of things happened in the last 6 years. And I've been working on the commercial side actually fairly long, and only in Q4 actually took on the existing business piece as well. So our existing customers, and of course I knew a lot of them already, but it's very, very funny to see, what are the different challenges when you start moving to marketplaces versus when you're live on a longer term, right? And then what happens after that, like 2, 3, 4 years that, you've already seen a lot of different flavors, marketplaces, up and down trends, of course. And now, what is the future for these marketplace managers? So, very happy about that part.
Nice. Congrats.
Thanks.
So what do you do best in the marketplace business, Dex, besides sales?
Mostly. No, so a large part of what I'm hearing, I can also, of course, relate to the different brands that we're talking to, right? So, we see a lot of different pitfalls. There's a lot of conversations that we have with the different brands on, how they want to move towards new marketplaces, how they want to grow internationally, keeping that, profitable side. Which I think over the years, we've gotten to see so many edge cases of where profit was bleeding, that this is something that we can now easily put into the same kind of picture, the same package for brands who want to move international. So that would be, I think, the main focus for myself.
And when you read your study, your company's report on consumer behavior in Germany, what was the most surprising part for you?
Yeah, there were plenty of surprising parts, I think, but I don't want to steal the full time already. But yeah, what really stood out for me is that there's still that almost 80% Amazon dominance, right, in the market. Even though we've seen so many new marketplaces coming up, so many niche marketplaces coming up as well. Of course, I would assume that the dominance would actually drop over time, but currently that seems to not be the case, at least for now. That surprised me a bit.
Yeah, yeah, that is something I guess quite surprising, especially for you as a Dutch person, where the marketplace landscape is much more diverse than it is in Germany. And on the other hand, I often have to explain to German retailers and brands why they have to consider other marketplaces aside from Amazon if they go international, because they have this German lens on where they say, yeah, it's Amazon and the rest, and who cares? Yeah, people do care in other countries, so that is actually quite different. Yeah, I agree. Right, and here we are already in the middle of today's discussion. So I think we can just stick with that and continue right away. But before that, Valerie and me would like to tell you a bit more about an upcoming event we're doing. Because we are very much looking forward to seeing you again soon at one of our already quite well-established live events called Connect. The next one is coming up on May 14th, and that is the evening before the Multi-Channel Day in Cologne. There we will host our Marketplace Universe Connect together with our sponsor MediaMarkt Saturn. And once again, we will bring together brands and sellers, manufacturers, retailers, and a few marketplace service providers for one cozy evening.
Yeah, and if you haven't been on one of our Connect events yet, here is what to expect. A cool location in the heart of Cologne, which I have chosen. Great food and drinks, meaningful conversations, and valuable contacts. And we will also have a quick live interview with Christian College, Vice President and CEO Marketplace at MediaMarkt Saturn, and with Thomas Hock, Head of E-Commerce at the Refurbished Specialist Nesatec. And we will, of course, talk about Refurbished and MediaMarkt as a marketplace. But be aware, this is an exclusive event and places are limited. So we carefully review each registration to ensure an optimal experience for all our guests.
So if you want to be part of this great marketplace evening, better sign up quickly. We'll link you the show. We'll link you the events in the show notes.
Yeah, and you will also find the link on our website, marketplace-universe.com/events/connect.
Okay, right. So back to our topic at hand and to the German marketplace consumer. So Dex, we have already touched upon this a bit. The German market is unique in many ways. So Channel Engines has got a lot of international clients all over Europe and going further than that as well. So if they are looking at the German market, how do they typically perceive the German market?
Yeah, it's also a bit difficult for me. I don't want to make wrong assumptions, with the Germans in the room. But what I hear a lot about our customers, for instance, that are coming from the US towards Europe, or that are maybe from a bit like Southern European countries expanding into Germany, is that they are worried that the German buyers are fairly cautious, right? So that they would have the conception that a customer journey in browsing products and looking up, comparing alternatives, these kind of things, makes the customer journey a bit longer. And therefore, everything across this customer journey needs to be perfect in line, right? They need to have the kind of same messaging, or their advertising, needs to be all on point. I'm not sure if that's correct, though. One of the insights that we got from the report is that actually, compared to other European countries, the German shoppers are very likely to make unplanned purchases, like impulse buys, So it's, I think, almost 60% that we saw in the report, even though that other countries where I would assume the shoppers are more impulse driven, such as France, are a bit lower on that unpriced planned purchases.
Okay.
So that's super interesting, I think.
Okay. And maybe tell us more about the overall behavior report. Like how many people did you
Yeah.
put into the report? When did you do this? To get a more broader perspective on like what base the
Yeah.
report has.
Yeah, sure. So we did this marketplace consumer behavior report across different European markets. I think 6 or 7 in total. But for the German market specifically, we have 1,000 people interviewed with different and in different generations. So we can really make a bit of a split between Gen Zers or the boomers and everything in between. Yeah, we just see that there's because of that high number of participants, it's a very trustworthy research on that behavior and where everyone wants to shop, how they feel that the trust is compared to a marketplace versus brand shops, and all these kind of insights that we think are extremely relevant to see and compare.
Yeah, and it is. I just used these numbers in a recent presentation I did for DAX actually, because it's one of the few reports that I know about that compare different countries through the marketplace lens. So really helpful there. And coming back to what you said about how people, how sometimes numbers differ from what people might think or might feel about a marketplace, I totally agree. Actually, when you said that before, German consumers tend to be seen as cautious and having a long customer journey, I was more to agree actually, because this was also one of the things that I find surprising about your report. Like, okay, spontaneous, yes, that's not something that you normally, put together when you think about the German market. But yeah, thinking about that again, I think another thing that I found interesting here is that German consumers tend to put a lot of thought about recommendations and product reviews, but on the other hand, so they want to read them, they want to look them up, they want to have them there on a marketplace, but they don't trust them easily that much. Quite interesting there.
Yeah. I think what's super funny on this, and maybe that's something that doesn't only happen in German market, but rationally, people would say, okay, I don't trust all these reviews, and we don't know whether they're acquired or people get free stuff in trade for like a good review. But simultaneously, I think in subconscious there is some kind of there's some kind of check, whether people that are putting in reviews, if they're actually real or not. There's still some kind of convincing element there. Plus, I've seen a lot of people just filter on the worst reviews, and then in the worst reviews say, okay, do I also think this is bad or not? Not so much. Okay, then I'll go ahead and buy it.
I do that. I absolutely do that.
Yeah.
I just filter for the negative responses and have a look at those.
Me too. And I think like, okay, this is about packaging. Poor you.
So, like overall, the report showed that around about 70% of German shoppers prefer marketplaces over brand websites. That to me sounds like a figure that is European standard, isn't it? Or is that particularly high?
It is higher than the average. I think it's so. We also did the study in the UK and in the US. There it's roughly 60%, so it's a bit lower. But in the Netherlands, for instance, it's only 50%. And I think it is quite funny because there's perception on like German buyers that the trust element is super important, right? And that you would say, okay, if we have the brand's website and buying directly from the brand, might be considered more trustworthy than from a third party such as a marketplace. But simultaneously, it might just show how much the trust in these marketplaces have grown, which I think is fair. That the delivery promise has been very strict. Of course, every marketplace seller knows the pain of not keeping your delivery promise and getting strikes and stuff. But simultaneously, because of the marketplaces being integrated in that day-to-day life, maybe the trust with these marketplaces just got super high.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also about the convenience. So, like just an example, I bought a toothbrush last week on the spring deals at Amazon. And then we were like, yeah, okay, shall we buy it directly at their market, like, or that their online shop was like even not a thought of. It was like, okay, let's try it if we can get it directly from Amazon or from a marketplace seller, because if it's like not working, which actually the one part of it is not working, then we can easily send it back. And there's like no headache in terms of like getting the customer support, blah, blah, blah. We just say like, hey, it's not working, and then we can send it back, and that's it. So
yeah, Amazon did a lot of ground building here when it comes to trust,
Yeah.
which is so I think these 70% of German shoppers that prefer marketplaces, I guess most of them prefer Amazon over a brand website. How did that happen? What would you say, Dex, from your outside perspective, that Amazon is so dominant in Germany when it isn't in other European countries?
there was no bold first there.
No, but still, I mean, even
That's it, right?
if you,
That's it.
yeah, of course. I mean, that's the special situation from the Netherlands. But even if you compare it to other countries, like, I don't know, France, for example, where there's not this one big local player that just, pushed Amazon out of the way, and still, Amazon is not that overtaking everything as it is in Germany.
Yeah, no, but I mean, of course, the first mover bit is very, very relevant there, right? So we have a lot of marketplaces from an early stage in France, for instance. So people were always used to browsing on different marketplaces, seeing different types of assortment when they are going to, see discount, or they're looking for specific stuff on La Redoute because it's just not there on other marketplaces. And I think that consolidation of the different brands and all the different types of retailers that were offering so many items on Amazon early on, that has been a large part of that push, and therefore it also was a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because Amazon started moving more of their focus into the German market as well. And then you get this kind of new pilots that are coming up, different things that they're testing and trying, that are helping broaden the scope on Amazon in the German market. So I think that works, in both ways. But still, it's impressive, right? I think we're talking about roughly 80% of the German shoppers that are on Amazon and frequently buying there. In France, it's like 30%, I think. So it's really, really big difference.
So, what do you say to your customers that want to sell to the German market? Would you tell them, go for Amazon and leave the rest, or do the other marketplaces, in your opinion, still have a point?
Very, very difficult to say across the board. So there's a lot of different categories that work well in some marketplaces where, we'd still see specialization, and we still see that there's different marketplaces that are used as a kind of discovery platform. And this is something where you see Amazon's not really good at, right? There's a lot of transactions on it. It's really for people that are already in the bottom of the funnel. Maybe they're even comparing prices. So if they're not, looking for that specific product that you're offering, there's just a smaller chance of you actually stealing that sale from someone else. So generally, I would say Amazon is a good place to start, but very competitive. And like I said, you have to already be the customer needs to be aware that you exist. So that takes, time and effort, but also let's not forget that takes advertising money, right? Really, really a lot.
Yeah. And it's also complex, right? If I sometimes say like, let's start at Amazon, and then I'm like, just be aware. You're just one click away from going pan-European, and you don't even realize it sometimes.
Yeah.
So, we really have to be aware about the details, as always, of course. But Amazon is complex. It's not like okay, let's go there and see what happens. It's more like, okay, you better have a plan.
And be aware of the fierce competition that is going on Amazon. As you said, it might be easier selling and easier life for you as a seller if you are in a marketplace that is not so overrun with competition.
Yeah, but it's an open marketplace, and we don't have many open marketplaces in Germany also, to be very honest. I mean, we have eBay, Kaufland, so and so, and then it's like correct me if I'm wrong, but so many other open marketplaces where you don't need a brand approval.
like Hood or something, but this is not
Yeah,
not
but
that so
relevant
relevant.
ones.
Yeah, not that much. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
So, as you touched upon categories, Dex, I found it interesting in your report that you're also going deep into the categories and looking at marketplace behavior in each category. And what I found really interesting, not just in the German report, but overall, was that home and living scored so high as a category that is so relevant for marketplaces, and where marketplace purchase is much higher than in other categories. And that is also true for Germany. How do you explain that?
I think people are very used to actually buying, and let's say home and living, home and deco stuff on marketplaces. So that just continues to be the case. Of course, there's a lot of people that are still, doing offline shopping, but mostly to see, is this couch, it's the classic example, right? Is this the fabric that I like? Does it sit, the way that I prefer a couch to be? But then afterwards, they're going online to do that comparison shopping a bit, and then they end up on this marketplace piece. I think that the difficulty with this category is that it's so broad. So it's like saying, apparel's doing well online. Yeah, it's also a super broad category, but then if we're splitting into, different segments, different fashion segments or luxury or accessories or beauty, for instance, yeah, you have all these different elements, and it's kind of the same with home and living. So we see that lighting, for instance, is a growing market, but has been a growing market for a long time. A lot of kitchen stuff. And there's a lot of people that are now offering these specialized barista things that are super popular. Air fryers remain to be popular, and they're also all in that same category. They're jumped in in that home living, domestic appliances. It just gets one big gray ball of category. So I think that's mainly the reason why it stays so popular.
Yeah.
So what are the
Yeah, and you also
yeah,
need to
sorry.
say, I mean, home and living is usually a bit like heavy to just like carry back home. And you have less assortment selection available if you go to like, I don't know,
To a
one
store.
big store, then yeah.
So what other categories are especially marketplace prone in Germany?
Yeah, I think when we're looking at electronics, I feel that there's still a large part that we can that can be grown there. And there's a lot of the cell phone hype is a bit over, right? So not everyone needs a new phone every year anymore. I hope so. But there's a lot of electronics categories that are actually doing really well, but can have a bit better push in general from the different brands that are on there. So we see there's retailers taking a large part of the market still, but I think we all know the margins for retailer and electronics are relatively small. So I would assume that more brands are moving into the markets to actually take on that market in the right way, keeping their kind of channel conflict to a minimum. But I would see that would make it still a growing market, where in fashion or in the home and living categories, the brands are they've already moved towards this model with far higher adoption. So I think that would be one where we'll see more push also in the near future.
Right. Looking a bit at the elephant in the room here, I'm not really sure if you included the Chinese platforms like Temu and Shein in the study that much, but they already have quite a high awareness in Germany. But from what I saw when I compared that, for example, to the figures that I got from Southern European countries, those platforms are strong in Germany, but not as strong as they are in other countries. Why is that? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's super funny. So we were talking about this, I think 2 weeks ago. I'm doing a blue paper with Moritz Behm. I don't know if you know him, but very interesting. And he called the Chinese marketplace, when we're talking about it like this, a bit like Voldemort from Harry Potter, right? The marketplaces who must not be
Who must
named.
not be named, yeah.
But they have names, right? You would see Temu and Shein being there with very high awareness already. But I think in this particular case, the funny thing is that also here the trust is not really high. So you see that only 30% of the consumers would shop, on Temu in Germany, for instance. But in the US, this is almost 50%. So there's just way more adoption for these kind of platforms. In the UK as well. So Temu is the third most popular marketplace there. 40% of customers, from the report would say that they would plan a purchase in the next 6 months. There's just a lot of, this kind of motion for these marketplaces, where I would say, maybe that's something that the trust will still build up.
Yeah, that's again this trust question, I guess, and this slow adoption of newer platforms, because the trust is still lacking there. So I guess the German e-commerce still has some, I don't know, some grace period here, because before consumers will adopt to Temu and Shein in large numbers. But I don't have much much doubt that this will happen sooner or later.
It's a bit difficult, I
Let's
think,
see.
because there are some high luxury retailers that started but also stopped on Temu, for instance, quite the luxury apparel and showcasing from different brands, the goods, and they're of course real goods, right? The retailers were working on them. They're just legit sellers, but still a lot of the perception of the shoppers would then be, maybe they're not real, can we really trust this? That's a bit difficult. So I don't know how long it will take, but I think it will take a bit before it actually rises.
So in that case, what's your opinion about TikTok Shop, which has just started in Germany 1 week ago?
Yeah, a completely different case, I think.
Yes.
Right.
But again, a new one, but people have to adopt to. So this is where I'm coming from.
Yes, and it definitely is one where people have to adopt to be clear. The opportunity for TikTok Shop is huge. We see that there's a lot of room in this side of the market, right? Like I said, with Amazon being on that transactional case, being a lot of people are just looking at, okay, this is what I want to buy and I can buy it here. With TikTok, it's exactly the other way around, right? So I think we've shared that it's as channel engine more often, but there are more people watching TikToks than that are watching Netflix. So it's really interesting, because a show on Netflix takes 45 minutes, but apparently a show on TikTok could also last 45 minutes or longer, with all the different things that are coming by. And all these sessions, they constantly are an opportunity to showcase brands, to showcase these products, to create awareness. And I think that's what's, helping a lot to actually get products on that discovery side, under the attention of the shoppers. Plus, there might be a big opportunity for maybe smaller brands to actually level the playing field here, because that's still, it's a bit of a green field, right? So there's still a lot of different things that need to be discovered, and we've seen that in the UK and in the US with our sellers. They could launch a brand that's not known to a perfect, launch on TikTok. It goes viral, and all of a sudden, they're sold out with this new brand. Even though it's not somewhere, it doesn't have brand awareness. It's not like super well known brand. So I think that's very important to realize.
And Dex, as TikTok Shop started last week, do you have already first feedbacks how it went in the first week? Because I heard some feedbacks. Did you hear something?
I think that so what I've heard so far is that the launch hasn't been like the super boom that it's been for other countries. But I must also say the launch that was done in the UK, which I would now see as successful, it's also a bit of like the second launch that they've done, and it needs some warming up in that case. So it's also a bit early. Maybe not everyone has found their way onto the platform yet. But yeah, the first, I haven't heard like amazing first results yet.
Yes,
but
yeah,
maybe
me too.
maybe it's just me. Yeah.
No, but it's also for me, like very, very, very big brands I talked to, and they were like, yeah, we're doing it, we're trying it, but yeah, let's see. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely something that will take some time. Right. So just playing timekeeper here again, Dex. So just one final question to you. From your experience, what are the biggest mistakes that international brands do when they enter the German market?
There are a couple of mistakes, I would say, but some more worse than others. So, of course, starting in your marketplace requires a localization of content, right? I think this is super clear. So it's not just translating, especially right now, you'd see a lot of people offer only AI translation, right? Which we can also do in the platform, but we really see that it only works when the localization is done, not just the translation. So it's super important place. We talked a little bit about the difference in how the competition is on the marketplaces. So I think that's something I won't highlight again, but it's a very important one. But I also think that there's a lot of people, especially maybe in France or more Southern Europe, they're just not used to the return numbers in Germany. So unfortunately, that is still it remains a topic, regardless of whether the platforms are slowly putting in that return fee, which I think is a good thing to be clear. But a lot of international sellers, they haven't really taken into their P&L, into their margin forecasting how much impact the returns will have. Handling them, maybe having a local return address, being able to actually put that into their full analysis beforehand. And we just see that after 6 months or a year, if they're looking back, the numbers are always a bit more negative than they were actually projected.
Yeah, definitely. That's good that you pointed that out again, because again, we as Germans are so used to that Germans are like the world champions of returns. But it's really good to point that out again. Yeah. I guess that's it for today for our short look on the German market together with you, Dex. Thank you very much for your insights and for the nice figures that I will still be using for further references, definitely.
Great.
Right. Next week, if you want to tune in again, we will have you do an Amazon update, because we have been talking a lot about Amazon and how important they are to the German market. So then next week we will invite Malte Karstan back, who has, I think this week he's in Amazon Luxembourg and talking there to the chiefs of staff to find out a bit more what they're planning for Europe for this year and for next year. And it's always interesting to catch up with him and see what he has found out. So we will be doing this next week.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dex, for your time here.
Thank you.
And and if you liked us, if you liked the podcast episode, then you would make us very happy if you follow us, if you rate us on podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, on YouTube, or wherever you are listening to us. Then you're much supporting us, and of course by tuning in again next week.
Right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Let's Talk Marketplace.
The Marketplace Podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.